Hi, everybody. Coleen Carberry here. I'm here again today with the Daily Health Alert. And you can see I've got lots of guests with me. Today, I wanted to actually invite our coaching team from AMI. And we've got Kelly Hudson. Say hi, Kelly.
Hello.
Yeah. We've got Paul Kuba.
Hey.
Nicole Ferlin.
Hi.
And we've got Octavio Mella here with us.
Hi.
So I decided today to invite the coaching team because every week or every evening when we bring a Daily Health Alert episode, we bring guests in from outside of the AMI family to bring data to not only our clients, but to our public. And sometimes we even bring our staff in from Chattanooga, giving ideas of what they're doing. And then sometimes we bring clients on just to kind of give their wins on what they're doing. But I thought it would be actually so valuable and fabulous to hear from the team that works with our clients every single day. And that's this team. So I wanted just to take a brief moment and go around and let each team member tell you a little bit about how long they've been with AMI and their role with AMI. So Kelly, why don't you go ahead and tell us?
Well, I started with AMI right after having come from a clinic that I was an office manager at that I integrated using the AMI model. And I've been with AMI for a few years now, and I've worked with hundreds of clients to get them integrated and successfully putting the program to use.
Perfect, thank you. Paul, tell us how about you?
So I'm new to AMI. My role with AMI is Executive Vice President of Operations, and I am a triple state licensed chiropractor. I've practiced for, since 1997, and I've also enjoyed several senior executive positions in the corporate world. And I've been tasked by yourself and Dr. Carberry to put the DME program into hundreds of offices, and have been doing so successfully since the beginning of the pandemic.
Perfect. And just as a note to what Paul came to the company, I think a lot of our public already knows that AMI has joined partnerships with Grant Cardone and Brandon Dawson. And we're bringing some of the a lot of Brandon Dawson's business concepts into the AMI concepts, which is the clinical model concepts together. And we're putting together teams called strategic business units. And those teams are going to be led by Paul. That program of ours is actually being developed as we speak. Our teams are hired and they're busy training up on these new business models. So Paul came to us for that. But of course, during the pandemic, do whatever it takes, right? Paul took over and helped me to create the DME coaching position, and he has a whole team behind him. He has 3 team members behind him that he leads up to help our clients right now. So Octavio, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I have been with AMI since last year, 2019. Before that, I was a coach with the automotive industry for about 6 years, where I could say that I coached hundreds and hundreds of clients, specifically on marketing, and with great success, actually. And I'm happy to be with AMI.
Wonderful. And Octavio actually is our marketing coach. So we created about a year ago a marketing program, maybe a little less than a year ago, a very robust marketing program, and actually assigned a coach to the marketing program. And that's Octavio. He handles just the marketing with our clients. Yeah.
Yes.
So Nicole, tell us a little about yourself.
All right. Well, I've been with AMI for 4 years now and have coached hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients. I've integrated about 100. And prior to working with AMI, I worked at a very large integrated practice in Florida. And we had 2 integrated clinics as well as a surgery center where I trained and was the compliance officer for all facilities. And that's pretty much what I did.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, what I wanted to do was I wanted to bring, and now you can see that the coaches all bring great value to AMI and to our clients. And I wanted to actually go ahead and ask some of them some questions about what they're seeing and hearing from their clients, because right here, this team right here speaks to our clients daily. Like every client weekly is spoken to by one of the members of our teams here. So my first question I'm going to ask, and then I'll kind of ask people to kind of comment on that. Of the clients that you coach right now, what percentage would you say are still in business, still seeing patients coming into their office, and still functioning enough to actually to pay their payroll basically, or to pay their overhead of their practice. It might be carved back a little bit, but they're surviving. Kelly, tell me, how many of your clients, what percentage would you say?
I would say about 50% are really making it as their full size, what they normally were at before. And about another 20 to 30% have scaled back and are able to stay open with that scaled back structure. And then some have been forced to close because of the virus, because of their state rules. So that would be my percentages. About 90 to 95% are open and they're making it happen.
Perfect. How about Nicole? How about your clients?
I have about 98% of my clients are still open.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Paul, when you talk to clients, what are you hearing?
Okay, so I'm hearing in what basically Kelly and Nicole have shared, the majority of them are open. How they're performing is different in each state and each different practice setup, but I can tell you that I've seen it starting to pick up. I've heard a little bit of good news in that regard.
Perfect, wonderful. How about you, Octavia? What are you seeing?
I see about 95% are open. They are actually getting way more traffic as of right now. As of this week, there's way more traffic, but I could say with confidence that about 95, 98% of them are open and going.
Fantastic, wonderful, good, good. Okay, good. So I kind of want to switch gears a little bit now, and I'm going to ask Nicole and Kelly, because they are the lead coaches right now of the AMI program. And I wanted to ask you both a question. Nicole, have you answer it first. Can you tell me about a client that you have? We want to actually hear a story about a client that you have that has their doors open, and some of the strategies that they've used to keep those doors open and actually either doing okay or still doing well. Give us an example of a client you have, Nicole.
Sure, there's actually quite a few. They initially, when the whole thing started with the COVID-19, I'm not going to lie, there was a little bit of panic from everybody, because immediately they were worried and concerned about what does this mean and how's this going to affect them. But, the majority of everybody, connected immediately with the chiropractic board and some with the medical boards to determine, okay, are they considered essential? Can they stay open? What can they do? And they immediately started implementing all of the CDC guidelines in terms of cleaning and sanitizing and social distancing and what have you. And they just started really reaching out to their patients and their patient base to let them know, hey, we're here, we're open, this is what we're doing, we're following these guidelines. There was no pressure to get people to come in or sell them services per se, but they made themselves available to their patients and their communities and their families. And just by virtue of doing that, they didn't have that steep of a decline of patients that were actually coming in to get treatment. And some have actually, through the marketing and the social media posts and videos and tips on health and nutrition and whatnot, they've actually expanded their practices and have higher volume and are actually generating more revenue than they were prior to the COVID-19 without directly marketing out into the public to get people in. It's amazing how well that's working.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. What are you seeing, Kelly?
A lot of the same thing as Nicole, the initial panic of what are we going to do now? And just, I have to say the videos from AMI have helped tremendously to give them some direction, especially the action plan. I have a client that I just spoke to today that is seeing his highest ever for the month since he's opened. And in the last 2 months have been his highest ever patient visits, because he took on the viewpoint that I'm not letting this shut me down. And he just poured on the coals. He literally just kept going, kept calling clients, got his social media going, got everybody on the phones, and got people in the door. And they're just continuing to crank it out. And in the last 2 months, they've done their highest ever patient visits, patient services, and patient collections. So
Awesome.
they're going to see, they've already seen 1,800 patients this month so far. I mean, it's incredible. And, you know, they just were not going to let anything tell them no.
You know, what I get from that, Kelly, you know, there are definitely some states that say no doors open. So I can understand how some people listening to us, their doors, they just can't have their doors open. So that's not, viewpoint isn't even real to them because their doors are not open. But, you know, when the doors are open, you're right. It's actually the viewpoint or the certainty of the executive. I think the deciding factor I've seen on all of this talk, because I talk to you guys every week, the deciding factor I hear from you guys with our clients is the ones that decided to fight and make it through this have actually grown. Correct? The ones that the executives that decided that. Would you find that to be true?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny because again, on my last, some of my last webinars, I talk about Napoleon Hill, and Paul's a big Napoleon Hill fan, and Napoleon Hill talks about, right, having that chief definite aim or that purpose, and allowing nothing to get in the way with it. And all of your clients, Nicole and Kelly, they joined AMI for a purpose. They had a reason why they are doing what they're doing. And I find it so incredibly amazing to watch these guys just stay focused and just keep growing. And using the strategies I'm hearing from both of you is massive communication to their patients. Is that what you've seen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also I don't know if Nicole or Kelly, you said it, the massive opportunities sitting right in their patient base that they never saw before. But now that they're massively communicating, all of a sudden, the patients are back, whether it's nutrition, whether it's immune boosting, whether it's other services, that they probably prior to this just treated a person, discharged a person, and the person was gone, right? Now it's like massive communication, and there's people back that they didn't even realize needed help again. Did you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Can I add one more thing?
Totally.
Some of these clients have done extremely well because they made that decision to stay open and that they were going to make it through this, and not only make it through, but actually grow as a result. Understand there's a lot of offices around them that did close, but because they remained open and they're there for their community and they're constantly showing up on social media with advice and recommendations and tips and whatnot, patients from those other clinics that are not open right now are coming into our clients because they're there.
Yeah.
So not only are they reactivating from their database, but they're acquiring new patients because they're still there.
Wow. That's fantastic to hear. That is fantastic to hear. You know, it's kind of, there's another concept in business, which is people don't remember the tiny nitty gritty things you do. They just remember that you were there for them in a time of need. It really isn't incredible how the public will actually remember when this is over, the clinics that were there in the time of need and the clinics that weren't. That's really when this is all over. Yeah, there's the small things. We're going to wash our hands, right? We're sanitizing everything. We're wearing masks. All of that's very important. But at the end, when this is over, maybe come June or July, the public is going to remember who was around all the time during this time of need and who wasn't. That will be remembered. Absolutely. Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, let me change topics here. I want to actually ask a question. Clients who had to close their doors. There are people that had to close their doors. There's no two ways about that. Or there's clients that chose to close their doors. They're obviously doing something with their time. So Paul, I'll pose this one to you first. Tell me, do you have a client whose doors are not open, and what are they doing in order to ensure their practice when they open survives, or that the actions that they're doing? Tell me, go ahead and tell me.
Yeah, well, there's a variety of different, there's not many who are completely closed, but I've seen it where they have been closed or closed to some degree. And some of them are preparing to deliver when they open. So they're setting up the DME, their program, they're getting all the steps ready so that when they do open, they're going to hit the road running. Um, Also, there are doctors who've delivered already and were delivering DME in their office who can move and have moved to telehealth services. For instance, I have one right now, maybe more than one, but one that came to mind in Maryland whose doors were completely closed and decided to deliver via telehealth the DME program. And these are patient care opportunities to patients who may be sheltering in place because they're high risk, because they are just, the media has scared the lights out of them. And the doctor is now providing patient care opportunities to patients who may have had their care stopped abruptly and who may need a form of non-narcotic pain relief to stop the progression of care in the wrong, that might be going in the wrong direction, or at least stabilize it to some degree and to help them. So these doctors are doing all they can in that regard.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have all it takes to teach someone how to do telemedicine?
That's right. We have all it takes right now in our phase 2 of the DME program, which will allow, there's a variety of digital assets that we can get any of the AMI doctors up and running. We have a different set of assets to give them digitally, like consent forms, initial screening, and a variety of different other assets, which I don't want to, get into the proprietary.
Perfect.
Things.
But the AMI is able to actually direct a guy whose doors are closed, right? One of our clients whose doors are closed had to actually be able to mobilize through telemedicine if they want to.
Absolutely. And not only do we have that ability, we are doing it. So it's happening, and patients are getting help where they weren't getting any help before because they're sheltering in place.
Perfect.
And yeah, and to that degree, we're really happy to be able to deliver those services.
Wonderful. So Nicole, tell me, do you have any clients? I know you have very few clients that doors are closed, but maybe clients who are really scaled back right now. What are they doing from a business point of view? What are they doing with their time?
So a couple of things. All of them are getting up and running on the telemedicine, for sure. That's been a very popular thing to implement right now because they can take care of the patients that are afraid to come in. Mm-hmm. Another big thing that they're doing is a lot of training. Like I am enjoying some of that time because we're really diving into the AMI systems and some of the admin and streamlining things and training, and they're watching videos and whatnot. So they're preparing for when they are open again, that they can actually hit the ground running, having elements of the program ready to implement, just so that they're still moving forward and progressing as opposed to just standing still and waiting.
Fantastic. How about you, Kelly? What are you seeing from your clients who might be really scaled back?
Well, I'm hearing a lot of the same things from like Nicole with the coaching on all of the things. It's kind of exciting to dive in and help all of the staff and then get all of the model put in, the AMI model. That has been a lot of fun. Another aspect is getting their offices remodeled because they have the time and they have the excuse because they had to close. And so they're spending the time productively. I have a couple of clinics that are at the point where they were.
That's a really good one to be able to. Yeah, who would have even, you think about it, right? I know we're remodeling in our office, right? But, I didn't, what a great idea.
I actually have a lot of clients who did the same thing. Oh, I just remodeled my whole rehab. I knocked down a bunch of walls and opened the space, and it's all set up and ready to go.
Beautiful. One thing in Chattanooga that we're doing is that we took the space next door. It's a training space. Our public may or may not know this, but we took a 3,000 square foot space next door, and it's for AMI training, but also our Apple staff will use it for doing dinner talks and things like that. And what we decided to do on a call today was to use that as a good news. Like, hey, during the COVID virus, I get everybody sheltering at home, but we've been very busy behind the scenes. Here's our brand new look, our brand new what we're doing, so that we come out of the gate not only having heavily communicated with our public, but like that when we step out, it's like we're new, we're brand new again and improved, because we took the time when we were down to self-improve ourselves. So that's kind of what they're already preparing their letters.
Yeah.
And Octavia, this lends into you right here, right? As a marketing idea for, I'm sure you must hear guys already talking about like, they're ready to kind of come back out, right? And from a marketing viewpoint, they have to let the world know these things.
That's correct. I do have a few clients that they are getting ready, order social media. They're getting ready, you know, their websites. They're getting ready their Facebook pages, their Instagram pages, their LinkedIn pages. And some of them have even found their local printers and marketing people. There are some of them hiring right now, just getting ready in regards to the marketing only. So they just hit the ground running when this is over.
Fabulous. Fantastic.
Yep.
Good.
I want to add something.
Tell me.
Some of my clients are using the time to get their new nurse practitioners on the credentialing program, so that it's a great excuse to, you know, not have to have them in the office and excuse me, getting things going on the credentialing side. So once this is over, they can come right into the office and get to work.
Fantastic. Good. Yes, Paul.
Coleen, yeah, I've also, speaking, you know, to add to Octavio's point, in the DME telehealth program, AMI has already have been working with some vendors where we have turnkey campaigns for new patients.
Mm-hmm. And that's new patients to come for telehealth, which is super
Exactly, great. Because if a client has a typical radius around the office that they serve, that's fine. But with telehealth, that could expand to whatever scope of practice they have licensure in, which adds an incredible amount of opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this, guys. I'm going to give you kind of some context in this, okay? Which is, you know, we have clients in all the states, right? And every state, since the president has decided that the governors of the states would kind of make the decisions in the states, it's not something that across every state the same rules are there. So you guys service clients in different states that have different rules put onto them that they have to follow, right? Different regulations that they have to follow. And besides that, sometimes clients might have other things that happen, right? I mean, you all heard from our crew in Chattanooga where the tornado hits down, 2 miles from the office, right? And just wallops Chattanooga. And, you know, that staff, I can tell you, because I saw the production, never even registered on the radar of production or visits. Yeah, wasn't business as usual. They all had to regroup. Different staff came in at different times. Schedules got mixed up. Some staff couldn't make it in at all, right? But it didn't hit the production line, the bottom line, because they got hit and they got up fast and they kept moving. So since each state is a little bit different, just seeing if you guys have any stories at all of a client that maybe something hit and how they overcame that thing that hit. It could be a state regulation that they all thought they'd have to shut, and how they overcame it to keep their doors open. Something they might have overcome. So, and anybody of you have a story?
I have a story about a doctor in California. I will say, you know, her main stop when this all started was that one, she was down to about 30% of patients coming in, and she told me straight up that she does not know what to do with social media or anything like that, and that she was just gonna close down and all that stuff. So I told her, well, what we can do, I'm gonna email you this action plan. I want to go over that with you. So basically in this case, I actually got her through all the steps of the action plan, and she said, it's going to be hard for me to overcome my fear on this. Okay. And I I said, okay, good. So this is what you need to do. And we again went over the program. I called her the week after about what she has been doing. And she picked up the phone. She was very happy, actually. And she literally told me, I can tell you with confidence that I am probably about 60% now. I have way more clients coming in. I'm like, wow, tell me what you have done. So she was proactive on social media. She was letting the patients know that she was open and that she was sanitizing and, doing all the cleaning and making it safe for them to come to the clinic and the products and services that she was delivering. And she basically, she said, for me to overcome my own fears on this, it has been amazing. So now that I have seen and I can actually stay open, I don't have to close. To me, this is just incredible. I validated her so much and she was extremely happy. So
that is a great story, Octavio. That is so fantastic. Yeah, and again, I know we talk about this, like being hit with something shifted her mindset, right? She decided to stay open. Yeah, fantastic.
Correct.
Kelly, you had a story. Tell us your story.
I have a doctor in Texas that they were told they had to close down their medical services for non-essential medical services. So of course their chiropractic is still open and it's rocking, but their nurse practitioner decided, well, I'm not stopping. So they got busy with family medicine. And so they've been seeing patients and helping patients that way. They just found a way that they could still continue to help patients, and they made it happen.
Wow. And that would help to grow their practice, wouldn't it? Either they bring in more new patients or they find something else.
Absolutely. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about this a little earlier, right? When this is all over, the public is going to remember who was there in the time of need and who stuck around and who didn't. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How about you, Nicole? You got any good stories for us of people overcoming barriers?
Well, I had several clinics who had just started treating medically right before COVID-19. Like literally one day they did a bunch of their first injections and then the next day, boom, COVID-19. And of course they're new. They just started treating medically. So it's not something that they're fully versed in and comfortable with and have the whole thing rock solid. So they were like, well, what do we do? And freaking out a little bit, they just started going and now bam, you've got to stop. But, I reassured them, and what I had them do was to get onto the daily videos. And I'm like, listen, you just watch those videos and then take that information and put it into application in your clinic, because there's all these diamonds and jewels of information and tips and suggestions and actual things to do to combat this whole thing. And they started doing that, and they were like, but what am I going to have my NP do if I can't be marketing and doing dinner talks and all of this? And I'm like, I'm telling you, just do what's being gone over in these videos and it will happen. It will just naturally happen. Gave them a little coaching on some of the verbiage and dialogue with patients when they did come in. But they started doing it, and lo and behold, they're applying everything from these videos and doing all the marketing suggestions and everything. And magically, just like with coaching them on the dialogue and how do you process a patient now, because it's a little bit different than what we normally train our clients on, because we had to adjust. But getting them through that, magically they started selling regenerative medicine and other cash services and therapy, and so like the first few phone calls I had with them to get them over this fear factor, and they started to get over it, then like by like the third phone call they're like, oh yeah, we just signed up 54,000 in regenerative medicine, or oh yeah, I just sold 10 different people trigger point injections, and man, they're loving this stuff. And now it's almost like, well, of course, that's what happens when you do what AMI says to do. It's like magic.
It does. You know, Nicole, to kind of feed off that, most states did not tell offices they couldn't do services, like a doctor's office. Yeah,
Right.
non-essential businesses like restaurants, I understand, movie theaters, but most states did not shut any doctor's offices down. We just all have to follow precautions and procedures. That's basically it. So,
Yep.
you know, if you're in a state that you're allowed open, which again, like I said, is the majority of the states, I'd probably say 90% of the states are open for doctors' offices to be open. You just have to translate to your public, one, that you're open, right? Two, that you're there to service them, and three, what guidelines you're following. And you know, I don't know if one of you guys gave me this idea, or maybe Bobby Palmer heard this. I don't know, but I know Bobby Palmer and Buck. So the Bobby and Buck show that happens on the AMI Daily Health Alert every Thursday. It's actually literally live with live questions. The two of them together, because Buck Wise is coming from Cardone Ventures, and he hears out in the full business world of what's going on, and then Bobby Palmer hears in our world what's going on. They had ideas, which I think is phenomenal, and our office is doing it, is that we started this social media campaign, okay? So again, here, Octavia, this is for marketing, but for everybody to hear. This massive social media campaign with little videos that they took their phone, right? And they talked about, hey, you know, we're open. We want you to see what we're doing to make sure that we are making sure that you are safe when you come in our office, okay? Because the first thing somebody says is, I want to go in, but. Yeah. And the but is not that I don't want care. It's, but is it safe? That's the but that they all think, right? So if you can blast to the public these videos, like you have your staff with their masks on, right? So you don't want to do videos without masks on. They're masks on, right? And what we're doing in our rehab is we actually have blue tape on our tables. So we show them, we actually go on the rehab floor and show them, see, we will keep you 6 feet apart. Okay, and then we have little signs on the table. This table has been sanitized. Okay, we told them we have like a 4-step procedure to sanitizing an area. And when an area is labeled sanitized, they know we've been through that 4-step procedure. Because the other question people ask is, okay, they say they're doing it, but the second but, are they really sanitizing, right? So it's like, I'd like to come in, but is it safe? And once they hear it's safe, then they say, but are they really doing it? Well, so we did it. We figured, let's just show the public what we're doing. We're cleaning door handles. We're showing them what we're doing. But then we have these little signs that basically say, this area has been sanitized. So when a patient comes back, they pick a mat table that's got a sanitized sign on it. They move it aside, and then they work out, right, with a staff member. And when that person leaves, we clean the tables and put a sanitized thing back on there. So it's just some of the things we did to like let the world know through social media, right, that it's safe and clean to come in. Because 90% of the states that are open, the only reason people aren't coming in is it safe? And if it is safe, how do I know it's really safe? Right? Those are the two things that go through people's heads.
Exactly.
So yeah, cool stories from you guys. All right, let me go ahead. Let me ask another question. I know that, I think it was last Thursday. Maybe it was last Thursday. I don't know. Where the president came out and said, and released the, must have been April 15th, came out and had Dr. Fauci come forward from the federal government and talk about the phases, right, that governors can choose to start opening their states. So there's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and they explained what are in the phases. And there are states already that are beginning to move into these phases. I know Tennessee, for us, the Tennessee governor moved the whole state into phase 1, except for the 4 counties that have the big cities in them. One of them, of course, is Hamilton County, which is ours. But just the fact that the Tennessee governor said, I'm opening up all of Tennessee except these counties. Remember, doctors' offices were still allowed to be open. So all that meant was in these counties, the restaurants weren't opening, but we were still open. That statement from the governor made it so that we actually had about 8 people come out of quarantine, self-quarantine, and say, okay, if the other counties are opening, we're venturing out, calling us back up and saying, what are you guys doing to make sure I'm safe if I come back? So we actually had 8 people return, and we're targeting ourselves now. They think each week we'll have about 10 more people return. We have like 45 people who are sheltering at home. We assume by the next 3 or 4 weeks, our whole patient base will be back that's sheltering at home. But oddly enough, we had replaced our whole patient base with a new patient base because there were people who were willing to come in. So we actually expect to actually double our size by the end of May because we kept building while our patient base stayed home, and we're going to bring it together. So I want to hear, Kelly, tell me with your clients, any clients you hear, what are they looking forward to in the future? What bright light are they seeing that they're moving towards that they think is going to just really shine for them?
Well, most of them are just getting ready to get those people back on the schedule. So they're calling everyone and, like you said, telling them what they're doing to continue to keep them safe. And they're willing and prepared to keep doing that, wearing their masks, doing the cleaning, keeping that safe until coronavirus is a distant memory.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they're doing, a lot of my clients have seen what this has either done to them or had the potential to do, having this come up out of the blue. Who would have expected it? And they're planning for the future in ways that they never have before. They're figuring out what they need as far as how many patients do they need to see, what kind of services do they need to do, what kind of set-asides do they need to have, and really seeing that as more of a bill as opposed to a hope that maybe one day we'll save for that, or we're going to go into debt over all of these things. And it got them to really start listening to what we've been talking about all along, and that is when you get, large amounts of money in on a certain service, whether that's regenerative medicine or now you're in insurance or whatever, to not just spend it, to pay off what they owe and then set aside so that they can plan for futures like this. And they're so thankful. At first they did it just because kind of I said so. And now they're looking at it like, oh, thank goodness. I'm so happy that we did that. I'm so glad that we had that set aside. And now I can just relax and treat my patients and do what I have to do. And, they know that if it wasn't for this model, they wouldn't be where they are today. They wouldn't be confidently out there just treating patients and doing what they have to do and using all of the resources that we've given them to keep them marching forward. They would have probably be crying. So they're just looking to the future as, wow, we're going to make this happen. And this is how we're going to continue to grow and be bigger and put everything to use.
Perfect. So Octavia, I'm going to ask you this question because one, I know on the part of the marketing program, I know this because I wrote the program, right, Octavia, that you follow, right?
Yes.
I know on part of the marketing program, there is a point in there that you actually help clients to deal with finances, just in a broad scope on how to figure out when you bring money in. Like you said, Kelly, medical offices bring money in. There's no question about it. Nicole, you just talked about how you had a client who collected $54,000 in regenerative medicine in a week, right? I talked to a client last week who collected $107,000 in regenerative medicine in a week. So when this money comes in, Octavia, I know on a very high level scale, you speak to them, all of our clients, because all of our clients eventually get to the marketing coach about putting how much money goes for marketing, right? How much money are put asides, how much money, that kind of stuff. So this is something that, Kelly, you're right, you reinforce, but when they get to you, Octavio, when you're making a good amount of money, when times are good and business is good, right? The AMI coaching team helps you to realize that you need to actually put money for set asides, right? Because there are crisis times like COVID-19. And Kelly, you're right. If you have some set asides, you at least have some cushion, right? So Octavia, I just bring that up as the marketing coach, because you actually get into numbers, don't you, Octavia?
That's correct.
Sense of the practice, yeah, which is cool. So Octavio, tell me on your front, from a marketing front, what are you hearing from guys as they look forward and they're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel here of being able to open up their business?
Still in the meeting? Oh.
We saw him come in, Octavia. We saw your hand go out like this too. So we've got the COVID-19, right? So we don't expect this thing to one day be over. We get it's not going to just be over, okay? But it's going to come out of it. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel when business is going to start functioning again. It might be months until it's all over, but our guys will begin functioning. What do you see from your guys? How are you hearing your guys? Are they optimistic? Are they looking to the future?
Well, this is what I hear from my guys. The number one point that I keep hearing is that now, as they are increasing way more of their customer base, their patient base, because one thing that they have been looking at is that a lot of old patients, people that they haven't seen for a year or two, they have been coming in, and they have been part now of the amount of active clients of the clinic. And a lot of them has realized that being in communication, or being so much in communication with the clients, has just all of a sudden increased this amount of patient on their patient base, and how much the clients or the patients actually respond to his reach out, you see. So for them now it's a whole new thing, that, my God, now reaching out so much and giving them, a good look at what we do and what we do for them and how we help them, they actually respond. And now, as a result, I have all this customer base, growing and growing. And of course, they are becoming a leader on their community, which for the future for them is just going to be incredible. I have a lot of doctors right now that are really excited about that point. They're becoming that leader on their community and so forth. And they're looking forward to, bring in way more, patients into their clinic, because now they know, oh my God, this is actually possible by doing marketing.
And Octavia, to speak to that, and this is something for advice for any, because we're doing this at our clinic in Chattanooga, but everybody, it seems like I hear from Nicole, from Kelly, from Paul, and from you that clients, doctors have had to increase their effort to stay in business, right? And they've been doing it. It wasn't like they had to do it for 3 days, right? Like there was a bad storm and now they're back to business, that kind of thing. Because a lot, over the years that you as coaches would hear, oh, there was a bad storm that came through and I had to close yesterday and I'm going to take a hit in production, but then it's back to business as usual. We've been in crisis mode for so long that our effort that we have to put out to stay in business has gone from here to here. Probably the best piece of advice I can give to anybody is, do not let that effort go back to here. This has become your new normal. Whether it's the amount of communication to your public, whether it's the amount of communication to your existing old patient base, whether it's your effort to motivate your staff, this is now the new normal. Do not go back here, because what's going to happen is all your competition is going back there. If our clients and everybody hearing me stays here, what's going to happen when the rest of their competition goes like this? They're going to dominate their space. There's no question they're going to roll on over and take the whole marketplace. So that's probably, for me, the hugest piece of advice moving forward into the future is, don't drop what you've been doing. All the effort you've been doing, keep it there. There's a new normal. It's been 30 days. What do they say? It takes 30 days to change a habit, right?
Yeah.
Not to change, keep it, right? So Nicole, tell us for your guys, what are you hearing from your guys that just kind of is inspiring for you to go, wow, we're looking at the light at the end of the tunnel?
I have two different scenarios. I have a number of clients who actually are rightfully so very proud because they overcame barriers and obstacles that normally they would not have overcome. And they've really applied themselves and called on their teams to rise to the occasion and be a stable influence and be that leader in their communities. And I'll tell you, talking with those clients prior to the coronavirus and then after, they've now experienced and have exemplified themselves as leaders, they're like different people. It's really amazing to talk to some of these guys now, because they just really took the bull by the horns and said, well, it's either sink or swim, and I'm gonna swim. I'm surviving this. So that's one scenario, and I have a number of docs in that category. And then I have this other category of doctors who are just on fire, and they are using every opportunity and looking at this whole thing as a way to grow exponentially and just blow it out of the water. You know, I've got clients that are looking for other practices like spots, places to open a second or third office. And it's funny because, you know, they had the thought in their minds prior to COVID-19. Yeah, it's eventually something I want to get to. Yeah, it's down the road. Yeah, that's my goal in, you know, 5 years or whatever. And it's just interesting because that whole thing you're talking about, that effort and rising to that level of action. Well, I think that they were like, oh, wait a second, if I can do this now, you know, hey, what the heck? Let's go all the way. I'm going to open more practices, or I'm going to double my amount of space. And they're actually doing it now. They're actively working on these things now in the middle of all this.
Yeah, that's a prime example of that. I think everybody should put on the refrigerator, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Yeah.
Literally, that's kind of like what it is, right? I think people's, they've been pushed into, whether it's our clients, whether it's us, right? Been pushed into areas that they are very uncomfortable in. But it's an amazing thing when the economy is good and everything's going well, and you have to move into an uncomfortable area to get something done. You don't want to do it because it's actually not so bad. But when crisis hits and you get shoved into the uncomfortable area and you realize, if I don't figure this out, I'm never going to make it. You figure it out, and there's growth. That whenever you get into an area that you're uncomfortable and you sort it out, you've now just stretched your limits. Right, and just exactly what you said, Nicole. You've stretched your viewpoints, your limits. Some people call it your havingness, which you can even have, and all of a sudden, you can now envision and use your imagination. You can have more, and then all of a sudden, you're bigger. So that's, I think, I would agree with you. I've seen that actually in people and in businesses happening.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Honestly, from a coaching standpoint, from AMI's standpoint, it's got to be. I got to speak for all of you. From our viewpoint, it is very exciting because, you know, many times as we're working with clients, we know what's in store for them when they get there, and we want them to get there so fast, right? We're pushing them, and everybody has their uncomfortable areas, and you're pushing them through it. And right now, a lot of them are going, I'll jump into it. And for a coach, that's a dream for some guys. It's like, you know, go for it, make it happen. Yeah,
Definitely.
Okay. Well, I really, really enjoyed speaking to all of you. Love working with all of you, which I think I tell you guys that. You guys are an incredible team leading our clients to where they need to be. And thank you all for coming on and sharing your stories with everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Our pleasure.